well as a functional unity of heritage, like that is what we inherit from our parents and something like that. Then we went on to look at different variation, and we looked at two different types of variation, where we have a continuous that is influenced by many genes and as well as environmental factor. Then we had also this continuous variation that is only influenced by a single gene, or it is also influenced due to lack of certain environmental factor. Now in today's video we'll be looking at the chromosomes. So in today's video we'll be talking about chromosome. Okay, so ideally chromosomes, they are DNA threads, all right, that are found in a nucleus, right? So if you look at a cell, okay, so I'm gonna just draw a basic structure of a cell. So if you look at this cell, right, so this cell has a nucleus. Okay, so this is the nucleus, right? I don't know why I'm okay. So this is a nucleus. So if you look at a cell has got a nucleus. So inside this nucleus there's a DNA. Now in that DNA, right, that DNA, it is on a chromosome. So that DNA, it is on a chromosome. Okay, so now chromosomes, these are DNA threads that are found inside the nucleus and are responsible for the storage of genetic information. So what is that genetic information? The genetic information that we're talking about here is the heritage information, all right? It is the information that contains the heritage, or is the information that contains your genes, in short, all right? One thing that you also should know is that each of these chromosomes, right, is made up of two strands, all right, that are called chromatids. Now what I would do, just to make it easy for you, I'll draw this chromosome, right? So maybe all right, so this is an example of a chromosome. Now this is a single strand and this is a single strand. Now each of these single strand is known as a chromatid, all right? Now these two, since they are two now, so meaning that in one chromosome, so this is one chromosome, so meaning that in one chromosome we have two chromatids. Now these two chromatids are what we call as are what we call sister chromatide. Okay, are what we call sister chromatide. So these are two sister chromatide. And let me just wrap this part. I was just trying to elaborate on the yeah. So, and you can see that you've noticed to say that where this single chromatide and this other chromatide, they are crossing each other, they are meeting each other, it is what we call as a centromere. Okay, is known as a centromere. So this is just a simple structure of a chromosome. Now this is where the genetic information is carried on, all right? So that is how, or this is where you find the genetic information being carried on. So let's continue. So ideally, another thing that I can state to say that you're going to find that always a chromosome will have a longer part and a shorter part. So if for example I can just write something like maybe let's say I have that. Okay, I have that. So you can notice that this is the long, okay, this is ideally you find that in books it is named as long term. So it has got a long term and it has got a short term, right? But this is just the length we'll measure this chromosome. So these are the things that are found in your DNA, and this is what is carrying the genetic information. Now let us continue and look at the number of these chromosomes. Okay, so ideally the number of chromosomes on each of the cell, okay, or maybe in each of the cell of a particular species, right, is fixed. So these chromosomes in each of the organisms, the number of these chromosomes are fixed. We can talk about, like I said, that in this topic I'll try to be as practical as possible, and I'll be referring a lot of time to human beings as our favorite organisms. Okay, we can talk about dogs, cats, even onion. We can talk about even other plants. So you're gonna find that the number of chromosomes, so let hash represent the number. So the number of chromosomes is fixed, right? So it is fixed in a particular cell or in each particular organism. So we've got two kinds of cells, all right? So one thing that you should remember is that we've got two types of cells, right? Can you remember the two types of cells that we have? I think I talked about this in the reproduction class online. So we've got two types of cells. We've got somatic cells, somatic as like this, all right? Somatic cells, which are also known as body cells. Then we also got gamete cells, okay, which are also known as what? Sex cells. Remember that? Yeah. So we've got these two types of cells. Now the somatic cells, these are body cells, right? Body cells, you can talk about cells of the skin, cells of other organs that are in your body, like I said, and I'll continue reminding you that I'll be practical as possible. Then the sex cells, these are gamete cells that we're talking about. You can talk about sperm cells, for example, those are sex cells, and we can talk about maybe the ovary, right, and or eggs. Those are examples of these cells. Now that is what we need to. So we've got two kinds of of this cell. Now the number of chromosomes in its somatic cells is called the diploid. All right. Is called a what? Is known as a diploid. So is known as a diploid. So the number of, I repeat again, so let hash represent number. So the number of somatic cell in each of the cell is called as, is known as a diploid. And being it a diploid, it is represented by 2n, right? Meaning representing to say it's a diploid. And the number of chromosomes, right, in a gamete cell is called a monoploid. Mono meaning one. You can remember the monosaccharide. So monoploid. So it's called as the monoploid or the haploid, meaning half. All right, haploid, and it is represented by n. Now this is the number of chromosomes in sex gamete, all right, or maybe in sex cells. What am I saying? Sex gamete. I'm repeating the same thing. In gamete cells or sex cells. So the number of chromosomes in a gamete cell is monoploid. It is one. It's single, or not single, rather it's one. It's haploid. And in the somatic cells, it is diploid and is represented by 2n. This one is what? Is n. Showing that it is haploid. It's half of the diploid. So that is what we have. So the haploid number is always half of the diploid number in a given species. That is how it is. So now let us just try to look at some few examples to appreciate with regards to the numbers of chromosomes in the haploid and like in the somatic cells. So we'll start with a common